Did you know that Ferrari is about to make the most radical technical change in recent years right at the Bahrain Grand Prix? We're talking about a complete transformation of the SF25 that could decide the fate of their season, or sink them even further. Today, I'm bringing you all the details of this ambitious package of improvements that could breathe new life into the Maranello team after a start that has been close to disaster. Stay until the end because we're going to analyze why this technical decision could be the riskiest and most necessary of the entire 2025 season. Ferrari heads into the fourth race of the 2025 championship with the pressure on and the weight of a story that seems to repeat itself year after year. What in preseason looked like a campaign of redemption, marked by the arrival of Lewis Hamilton and the promise of a completely redesigned car, has ended, at least so far, in disappointment. The SF25 hasn't lived up to expectations, neither in qualifying, nor in race pace, nor even in overall reliability. The numbers are clear. After 3 Grands Prix, Ferrari hasn't achieved a single victory, and in terms of pure performance, they are ranked as the 4th fastest team on the grid, behind Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes. A scenario that, for a team like Ferrari, is simply unacceptable. The pressure isn't just internal. The media environment in Italy, fierce as few others, is already questioning Fred Vasseur's leadership and the ability of the new technical direction led by Loic Serra to turn things around. Criticism is multiplying, not by chance, but because the mistakes made have been too basic for a team of this caliber. The Chinese Grand Prix, the most recent before Bahrain, was the most obvious example of the collapse. Not only did they fail to achieve a competitive result, but both cars were disqualified for textbook technical violations. Leclerc's car for being under the minimum weight and Hamilton's for excessive floor wear. A double blow that exposed deep-seated problems in the team's preparation and management. And all this is happening in a particularly critical season, where the margins are narrower than ever. The competition is fierce. McLaren has made a brutal leap in tire management and race performance. Red Bull remains the team to beat, and Mercedes has shown it's very close in terms of aerodynamic development. Ferrari, on the other hand, has been trapped in a kind of limbo. A car that isn't slow but isn't fast enough either, and which has also proven extremely fragile in the face of variable track conditions. The addition of Lewis Hamilton was supposed to be a catalyst for change. A catalyst. But the truth is that, so far, not even his talent has been able to compensate for the SF25 structural weaknesses. In China, the Briton achieved pole position and a sprint race victory, a glimpse of what could be. But in the main race, everything came undone by poor car management. And it wasn't bad luck. It was a calibration failure, an incorrect technical decision. In other words, avoidable mistakes. Mistakes that a team like Ferrari can't afford. And so, the Bahrain Grand Prix becomes a turning point. Not only because the team will be able to compare its data with those from preseason testing since they conducted their tests there, but because this race represents an opportunity to make a statement. To show that they've learned from their mistakes and are ready to change the narrative of their season. But will it be enough? Do they have the technical package necessary to turn things around? Or are we seeing, once again, Ferrari's promises crumble at the first contact with reality? The truth is that tension is palpable in Maranello. And Bahrain won't just be a test for the SF25. It will be a test for all of Ferrari. The updates Ferrari plans to introduce at the Bahrain Grand Prix aren't a simple tweak. We're talking about surgical intervention on the soul of the car, the SF25's floor. In modern Formula One, the floor is the cornerstone of aerodynamic performance thanks to ground effect. And any modification in this area not only changes how the car handles, but also how it must be driven and set up as a whole. And that's precisely what's at stake. Ferrari has developed a completely new floor design, which includes a redesigned tunnel, an updated diffuser, a new rear ring, and significant modifications to the rear brake ducts. This is no small change. It's the most ambitious development package the Scuderia has launched in the last 3 years. The goal is one, to correct the structural problems that have prevented the SF25 from competing head-to-head with the championship leaders. One of the most significant changes is in the undercut area, the critical section on the lower side of the car that manages airflow to the rear. Until now, the SF25 has suffered from excessive rear axle stiffness, leading to bouncing, loss of traction in fast corners, and disappointing performance on bumpy surfaces as demonstrated in Shanghai. This redesign seeks to control that airflow more efficiently, allowing the car to maintain a constant ground clearance, even with high fuel loads or accumulated tire wear. The most shocking technical data to emerge from the paddock is that Ferrari, with the current SF25 setup, is running on average 3 mm higher than ideal. In the era of ground effect, that's a silent catastrophe. It's not just about numbers. Those millimeters mean less downforce, less grip, and consequently more difficulty for the drivers to translate their talent into real-world performance. The new floor aims to do just that. Allow the car to operate closer to the ground without incurring penalties or excessive wear, as happened to Hamilton in China, where his car's floorboard fell below the minimum legal thickness. Furthermore, there is a firm commitment to expanding the car's operating window, that is, the range of conditions in which the car performs optimally. Until now, the SF25 has only performed well in very specific circumstances: ideal temperatures, a smooth track, and a low fuel load. But as soon as those conditions change, the car becomes unstable, difficult to drive, and, above all, inconsistent. That is what Ferrari is trying to change with this new floor. To make the SF25 a car that performs predictably in more scenarios, one that doesn't fall apart on street circuits, on tracks with high-speed corners, or on weekends with changing weather. It is also important to emphasize that these updates are not an end in themselves. They are part of a medium-term plan. Maranello has made it clear that this is just the first phase of a broader technical evolution, which will culminate in a complete overhaul of the aerodynamic package around Miami. Bahrain will therefore be the acid test. If this first step yields positive results, then Ferrari can build on it. But if it fails, the moral and technical blow could be devastating. This new floor is not just a technical improvement. It's a statement of principles. It's Ferrari saying, we're going to fight. We're going to correct the mistakes. We're going to give the SF25 back the ability to compete with dignity. Because at this level, it's not enough to be fast. You have to be smart, consistent, and above all, brave to change what doesn't work. And that's exactly what they're trying to do with this total overhaul of the car. Ferrari faces one of the most complex strategic dilemmas of the entire season. Risk everything now in Bahrain with the new SF25 floor, or wait until Miami to introduce it along with the rest of the complete aerodynamic package. This isn't a minor argument, nor is it simply a difference of opinion. This is a true philosophical battle within the team, pitting two different perspectives against each other on how to manage a technical crisis in the midst of a world championship. On the one hand, the aerodynamics department, led by the engineers who have been working for months on the floor redesign, is convinced they can't wait any longer. They argue that wind tunnel data and simulations clearly indicate that the new design offers an immediate improvement in terms of balance, stability, and race performance. They see Bahrain as the perfect setting to validate these advances on the real track, especially since they already have a very solid database thanks to preseason testing at the same track. For them, postponing implementation would be a missed opportunity, an act of timidity that would only prolong the team's technical suffering. On the other hand, Fred Vasseur and Loic Serra take a more cautious stance. They don't question the potential of the new floor, but they do question its context. They believe that introducing it without first stabilizing the car's overall balance could be counterproductive. In other words, they fear that the team doesn't yet have the tools or complete knowledge to correctly interpret how the car will react to this new part in real-life conditions. If something goes wrong, if the car loses even more balance, if the setup becomes uncontrollable, or if the drivers fail to adapt in real time, the damage won't just be in lost points. It will be a psychological and media blow at a time when the pressure on Ferrari is already at its limit. This internal tension has turned the Thursday before the Bahrain Grand Prix into a crucial day. Not only because the final decision on which configuration will be used must be made on that day, but because it represents the moment when Ferrari must choose between two very different paths. That of calculated risk in the hope of an immediate recovery, or that of strategic patience with a view to a more structural performance leap in Miami. Both paths have valid arguments, but only one can be followed. And added to all this is an even more dangerous element of uncertainty: what happened in China. Because the double disqualification not only left the team without valuable points, it also sowed internal doubts about the team's ability to properly execute complex technical changes. If the new floor unexpectedly alters the car's behavior and they fail to manage it properly, as happened with the configuration between the sprint and the race in Shanghai, Ferrari could find itself embroiled in another technical disaster. In that context, some within the team prefer to play it safe, protect what little still works, and avoid another weekend of crisis. This isn't just a debate about parts. It's a debate about how to manage an elite team when everything is at stake. Should we be aggressive and commit to change now, no matter the cost? Or should we wait for the right moment, even if it means giving up on a possible immediate breakthrough? In modern Formula One, where margins are razor thin and every race counts, this decision could mark the turning point in Ferrari's season. And the most interesting thing is that, whichever path they choose, we'll find out on the track. Because Bahrain will witness whether technical courage wins the battle, or whether prudence ends up saving a campaign already hanging by a thread. And after analyzing every angle of this situation, what is clear to us is that Ferrari is facing one of the most decisive moments of its season and perhaps of its reconstruction as a serious title contender. Today we saw how a single technical component like the SF25's floor can become the epicenter of an entire internal conflict that speaks not only to aerodynamics or simulations, but also to leadership, vision, and team identity. From the double disaster in China to the promises of improvement for Bahrain, to the strategic doubts that fracture the team between the urgency of the present and the prudence of the future, what's at stake for Ferrari isn't just an improvement in lap times. It's its credibility, its authority in the paddock, its ability to respond decisively when the championship isn't yet lost, but is beginning to slip through its fingers. And above all, its ability to demonstrate that this project, with Leclerc and Hamilton as pillars, has a clear direction and isn't just pre-season smoke. The decision to implement this new floor or not will not be just technical. It will be symbolic. Will be a show of character. Because these are the kinds of moments that define great teams. Will they show they are capable of taking intelligent risks, correcting mistakes decisively, and evolving under pressure? Or will they fall back into the narrative that has done them so much harm over the last decade? That of a sleeping giant that promises but fails to deliver? But history, as always, will be written on the track. And Bahrain won't just tell us if the SF25 has improved. It will tell us if Ferrari has learned, if it has matured, if it has left the ghosts of its most recent mistakes behind, or if we're simply witnessing another return to the same vicious cycle of frustrations, strategic failures, and missed opportunities. So now it's your turn. Do you think Ferrari is taking the right path by hesitating to implement these improvements now? Or do you think they have no choice but to take a risk and dig themselves out of the hole they find themselves in? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think as an F1 fan. And if you enjoyed this analysis, if you value this type of in-depth and strategic content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because in the next video we'll talk about the chaos at Red Bull, Verstappen's explosive statements, and what's really going on with the Yuki Tsunoda signing. A storm is brewing in Milton Keynes, and you won't want to miss it.